This evening I'm the introducer and the speaker. I hope you've been enjoying the lecture series on perspectives on China's cultural heritage. 2 weeks ago, the introducer, Kunailin Dili, gave a rip-roaring talk on tea, opium, and the burning of Summer Palace. And lots of people seem to be have the instill anger to the British and the French. But never mind. The whole century has been passed. Yes. Anyway, for tonight's talk, Dunhuang Murals in contemporary China will be Dr. Rémy Jarry, who will speak. We have selected several speakers from several references, and we have recommendations and people who knows these academics, researchers, and speakers from various sources. Some of them are online, so we have speakers from the States and China as well. Now, I met Dr. Rémy Jarry at Alliance Française, and he didn't speak about China. He spoke about French artists, Impressionists, etc., Post-Impressionists. The interesting thing is he compared them with Chinese art, which I was surprised. Yes, everything is related in the world, and so are the arts and culture. Now I'll leave the introduction to Eileen Deely. Thank you very much.
Well, this introduction is going to be rather strange because I didn't know exactly what Dr. Jarry was going to talk about, and because I'm an enthusiast of Dunhuang myself, having been there so many times, love the place. So I thought we were going to do a bit of, anyway. So I'm going to make it really short and leave because you didn't come here to listen to me, but to him. So. The Mogao Caves at Dunhuang is located at the edge of the Gobi Desert in Gansu province, and it's probably the world's largest and the most exciting, extraordinary gallery of Buddhist art because it got the art from all over, from Central Asia, from India, and from China. So you have all these different types of art presented in one place, and it's the only one that's got a continuous history of something like nearly 1,000 years. So this is all very exciting, and our distinguished speaker tonight, Dr. Rémy Jarry. He is a senior lecturer at Chulalongkorn University and an adjunct professor at the Catholic University of Paris, plus the Siam University in Taipei. Now, he is going to discuss today about the murals in China today, and how they are being incorporated into various applied arts as well as commodities that's being used all over. So let's welcome him to the stage.
Test, yeah, you can hear. Okay, perfect. I'll start with a disclaimer. Hello? Yeah. It's probably the first time you're going to hear about makeup, about TikTok, about all this kind of things. So, but of course, from the perspective of Dunhuang in China, is contemporary China. I'm going to start with this microphone, maybe better. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. I may move because this is the 7th hour of teaching today, so I need to move, but I'm very excited to be here and share my findings, also share my interest in this amazing place in China. So, introduction, for those who haven't been there, this is a map of China with all the UNESCO Heritage sites. So you are, as you can see, in the far west, on the Silk Road, of course, the continental Silk Road. And you can already see that it's very, very far away. And it's, so as it's remote, it's a little bit difficult. It was very difficult historically to connect with the overall population that is more on the coast. Here, so it's a closer look. I'm going to focus on Mogao Cave, but of course you have different sites. You have also the Yulin grottos, so, but they are a little bit, they are even more remote. So that's how it looks like. There is in the back, I brought the very long map. It's in Chinese, but you will see the importance and the size, the scale. More than 400 caves in this particular place. So a little bit of Chinese first. So I think it was interesting to bring the term, so Dunhuang, the city, and then Mogao, just to understand, I mean, the aura and the prestige that is historically associated to it. So Dun, it's equivalent to mount, so you have also the character of to the ground. Here, Dunhuang with the character of fire. Mogao Ku, so Gao, I will not go into details, but Gao, it's really the very important character for something very high. So all the terms and character are definitely carrying something positive. And that's obviously at the scale and at the level of the beauty of the site. You can see that you're really in the middle of the desert. For those who have visited, and you are many, you are already familiar. And that's one example of those murals, but very representative of the color palette and the state of those murals that are extremely vulnerable. Even actually, just visitors with our, let's say, breeze, it's a little bit salty and it may alter those frescoes. This is why only about 10 to 15 caves are available. So you already understand the importance of the digitalization of this particular heritage, because a little bit like those prehistorical caves, like in France you have Lascaux, those caves are completely locked, and then in that case they created mock-up sites, a real copy, but we can still visit a part of Dunhuang. So my point today is actually to bring Dunhuang back to the contemporary time, because it's now extremely central. You've seen that it's a very remote site, but in especially visual culture institution, it has been brought from the periphery back to the center. And from creative industry, education, diplomacy, I'll also cover that topic, heritage diplomacy in particular, it's becoming a very, very important reference, and also in the media, documentaries, television, it's pervasive, and it's also very present in the West. I'll mention, for example, this particular exhibition dedicated to contemporary art, but rooted in Dunhuang heritage. So to understand this particular situation, I'll have a fourfold plan, but it's also somehow chronological. Artistic renaissance followed by institutional empowerment, then heritage diplomacy, and last step, commodification of this particular heritage. But what is very interesting with this, let's say, timeline, there are synergies. This artistic renaissance is still very much happening, and then it has been upgraded with an institutional framework, and then moving on, this was also extended to heritage diplomacy, and finally, more and more commodification. But I will let you figure out if the limit has been, if it's a little bit too much. You'll see, especially, I'm thinking of a makeup collection. So think, and I invite you to make a parallel with Sukhothai, Ayutthaya, imagining the same thing that will happen in Thailand with this development. So, for those who are not familiar with Chinese chronology, sorry, it's super small, but it's also the dynasties of the Chinese civilization, but just for you to let's say, like just to sample landmark, 4th, 14th century, 10 centuries of active development, artists, and the creation of more and more cave. And of course, the golden age is between Sui, Tang dynasty, a little bit with Song, but then from Yuan dynasty start to be forgotten. Of course, with the competition of the maritime Silk Road. Therefore, those continental lines were not really used anymore. But then you have a breakthrough again from the early 20th century with the explorers and also with the Chinese artists up to now, and I will focus on People's Republic of China. So just to illustrate a little bit more about this evolution, you have a picture attributed to Peliot, 1988. That's how it looked like, and that's how it looks like when I visited in 2019. So great evolution. And as it was said before, greatest repository of Buddhist art in the world, but forgotten since the Ming dynasty. And now, as I also mentioned later on, a new rediscovery and now a pervasive presence in today's China, and also probably you're aware of the extension beyond the borders. This exhibition, for example, traveled to the United States. So first part, artistic renaissance. Two important figures of Chinese modern art, Zhang Dai-chien and Shuhong. Two very important artists, but not good friends. If you know the story, Zhang Dai-chien, for example, stand and stay there, is originally from Chengdu, not so far from Dunhuang, and he was amazed by this heritage. He made a lot of copies, but he also altered some of these murals, especially in the Yuling grottos. So then came Chang Shuhong, who was actually the first director of the Dunhuang Academy, and then he kicked him out to stop actually altering, and we still have evidences of Zhang Dai-chien, but I mean, nothing's perfect in this world. We still owe Zhang Dai-chien a very, very important step in the rediscovery of Dunhuang murals, because he made so many copies, and beautiful copies, obviously, such as this one, Shui Wei Guangyun, Water Moon Guanyin. And very, very shortly after, exhibition have been organized to show Zhang Dai-chien painting, and that started actually to highlight and showcase the beauty of this very remote place. So a little bit, it's like a pre-digitalization, if you will. Somehow it makes something site-specific accessible, and through the talent also of one of the greatest masters of Chinese art. And you could see that it will also start to be international with Tokyo in the 50s. And so, as Tom mentioned, I like to compare East and West, because I do not believe in cultural identities per se, and I think that's also why you can vibrate and have aesthetic experience with something you're not familiar with. And I always think of a parallel with, so also all the treasure of Western civilization and heritage. So the Last Supper and the Last Judgment. And both places are exactly also site-specific. They cannot move. And they also share this kind of, I will call it proto-installation or immersive art. You're surrounded by those paintings. So it's not like those Western standard painting on the wall. This is actually site-specific, but already immersive before virtual reality. So there is, in a sense, a very interesting modernity in those three places. I'll be very quick, but I also find those parallels very interesting. So don't take me wrong, I'm not saying that obviously Zhang Dai-chien thought about the Caravaggio to do that. But what I also find interesting is how to understand the beauty and the modernity of those artworks. I was actually wondering myself why I love this so much. But there is actually before, and this is a Zhang Dai-chien copy, but copying murals. But I feel like there is a sense of no gravity. That's probably why we feel like it's floating, so not in the water, in the air. And I think that's also the beauty of it. It's still very modern. So Zhang Dai-chien, and also here a copy by Chang Shuhong, because both were actually making a lot of copies. The last one, it's a disclaimer, it's a little bit touchier, but it's also the interest that I have. So those are not looking like the original, obviously. But what I find interesting, despite the decay and the alteration of colors, it's still extremely meaningful. And when I first saw that, I thought of Fernand Léger, the thick lines. But you should know that with the time, then the color change, especially the face become black. So there is this twist. It's actually very also coherent with the aesthetic of wabi-sabi in Japan, although it's more linked to nature. But there is also an aesthetic element in this historical evolution. And then modern Western art, there was also a way to introduce the fact that Dunhuang also hosts actually regularly modern art exhibition. When I was there in 2019, there was this duo exhibition with Salvador Dali and Picasso. So it's also about bringing what I'm doing now, this kind of intercultural dialogue. It is also happening in Dunhuang. Moving on, that's the first part with Zhang Dai-chien and Chang Shuhong, but then it has been followed, obviously, with Changshana, his daughter, but also Huang Yongping, Yu Hong, a female painter. So those are few examples among many, but I think they are very meaningful in understanding the status of Dunhuang Murals and Mogao the caves mural. So Changshana, she actually specialized in the pattern in Dunhuang through a graphic design perspective. And that was extremely important for the development also of creative industry. She wrote book, but as you can see, more about the graphic design. Regarding Huang Yongping, it's much more conceptual. So what about Dunhuang? Here, it's actually an installation by the late Huang Yongping. It's called Cave in English, Cavern in French. And I do think that there is actually a reference to this Dunhuang's library that has been discovered very, very late. And it's also, Huang Yongping is also talking about international relation, and was also related to Al-Qaeda at that time. But there was, this, you have sitting Buddha, you can see, like in front of the cave. Because for those who are familiar with Dunhuang, you know this story. This library in the Dunhuang Caves have been discovered very late by a monk, actually. So it was actually secured for centuries, and it's only relatively late, and that's why so many explorers came and took a lot of those manuscripts that are now in Western collection, BNF in France, British Museum in the UK. And what I find also very interesting, some are in New Delhi, because it was colonial time, and they have been left in New Delhi. Regarding Yu Hong, so that's one of their paintings. It might not be so obvious at first sight, but there is a close reference to one of the caves, and it's actually on the top. So you could see that it's now extremely important, and I would compare it to the importance of Western Renaissance for Western artists historically. Now it's the new, actually, and the very, very important canon that any contemporary artist needs to master. And this kind of time capsule, it's also sometimes actually a source of inspiration for other artists. Here you have a Singaporean artist, and there is this idea of a time capsule with Dunhuang because we rediscovered it, and then we just realized that there are 10th century of brilliant heritage. So the relation to time is not linear. So I mean, you may not like it, but I think there is conceptually a relevance with this futuristic. And the last example is also taken from popular culture. Here you have this Dukun singer, and you see the face. This is not Dunhuang, it's another, it's magician, but you can see the reference in this particular example. So now, second part, institutional empowerment. So we have now more exposure, let's say, labelization somehow of Zhang Dai-chien, and then the Chinese authority after World War II started to structure it. And they were also, I mean, it's not also a linear story because, of course, there will be later on the Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution, so it was a very, very tough time, and that was still a very remote place. You need days to access. Yet, it's interesting to remember that the Dunhuang Research Institute was created in 1944, and Chang Shuhong was at a very, very early stage leading it. Then Dunhuang Academy, it's like a reshuffle from the 80s before the inscription to the UNESCO World Heritage. And now you still have lots of side, let's say, initiative. This one, it's actually by the British Museum, and that one, it's American. I mentioned the case of the restitution, so all the museums are a little bit stressed by actually the claim that could be seen as legitimate, for sure. So each museum makes sure that everything, at least, is accessible digitally. And that definitely stimulates the research, and that's welcome. But officially, of course, China would like to recompose the whole collection ideally. And what is very interesting also historically, there was this usual saying, Dunhuang belongs to China, but Dunhuang study belong abroad. So sorry for the phrasing, but that's the idea. For a long, long time, it started with Peliot, Stein, the early explorer, and then all the knowledge moved back to the West. So the idea now is actually to bring it back to China, and I think it's an interesting development. And this Dunhuang Academy also move forward in terms of new technology with here the website eDunhuang. For those who miss Dunhuang, do visit this website because now you have virtual recording, 3D recording of several caves and with high resolution. If you go back to Siam Society website, that's the image that I took from eDunhuang. And so not all the caves are accessible digitally, but those who are, you can really, really go to detail. And here, if you want to travel to Dunhuang right now, this is a QR code. And as it's high resolution, you need time and lots of data to see it in good resolution. So now let's move forward to keep on exploring this institutional empowerment. And a key date is obviously 1987, when China, along with all the major actually sites, inscribed Dunhuang to the UNESCO World Heritage list. And you can see that although in the West Dunhuang is not that famous, it was put on the list at the same time with the Great Wall, Bing Mayong, the Terracotta Army, so all the major sites. So there was already this will to really put Dunhuang as a top list. 7 inscriptions. at that time. And very shortly, as you see, after China joined the convention. And now, actually, what is also interesting, besides research and let's say education and also bringing more access, there is this communication culture that is picking up. This is, for example, a documentary in French made by the correspondent in China of France Télévisions, the major channel, and I interviewed the journalist, and he has been approached by the Chinese authority to actually cover this. And I think it's very clever. It also tells about the evolution of the communication strategy, more proactive, and also what we call the agenda setting. China wants to not only have covers and articles about the conflict with the US and so on, they also the country try its best to also highlight the very important part of this heritage. And because indeed, I have to admit that if you look at the Western media, when we hear about China, it's mostly about politics. It's important, but there is no elements about art, culture, civilization to help the audience to understand a little bit better. So I do think that it's a bias. So of course, there are also responsibilities both sides, but yeah, I find this element and this culture of communication very interesting to highlight. Now, let's speak about education. That's also part of this institutional empowerment and what I call the canonization of Dunhuang. Now, it's really, I compare it to the Italian Renaissance. I would say that's the equivalent of Italian Renaissance for 19th century in Europe, just to reframe it. But having studied in China, I've realized that it's a fundamental reference now, and it's in any curriculum, not only Art Academy, but also in other programs. So speaking of Art Academy, so that's where I studied, the China Academy of Art. That's where I defended my PhD. But that's the same also with the Central Academy. Now it's Dunhuang is part of the new classics. And you have very interesting outcome from that. For example, here it's Jiangsu University of Technology. This professor, Wang Yensong, actually asked all the students to do copies of part of Dunhuang. And they especially like actually copies of fresco that has been taken by, yeah. So that's also a way to, yeah, I find it very interesting. And here it's also a very interesting copy. You see Paul Peliot in the Dunhuang library. What you don't see here, it's, you see here? Yes, and this has been actually copied. I guess like the skill here is not at the level of the preceding one, but very interesting. And also, part of the claim for restitution, sometimes those copies are also extremely engaged. Here you have actually copies made from very old photograph. What are those photographs about? They are about frescoes taken by German explorers back to the Berlin Museum. And Berlin Museum has been destroyed during the war. So those frescoes has been gone. And I think it's very clever because often, I mean, Western country, Western museums said, we take care of everything. It's safe here. But of course, there are some exceptions. And this is not Dunhuang, this is Tulufan. But I think it's, it's a very interesting, and I was introduced to this story. I didn't know actually this. It was the Asian Art Museum in Berlin. So you could see that there is a very interesting agenda behind. And about, let's say, decorative art, the same thing. So Chang, Shana was extremely important. But then in my academy, as you can see, for decorative art, jewelry, I mean, Dunhuang is also a very important reference. And myself, I would say that I have been Dunhuangized in a way, because I'm from the China Academy of Art. That's where I got my PhD. I got the scholarship from China, and if I'm talking about Dunhuang today, it's also part of it. So I don't want to hide myself, and I want to give you the whole background, I would say. So now, let's speak about heritage diplomacy. So it's, of course, very consistent with this institutional empowerment. But here, we'll start to move overseas. Because indeed, Dunhuang is such a rich set of symbols. You are in the core of the Buddhist art, more than 10 centuries, different dynasties. It's also extremely diverse. We say Buddhist repository, but we have representation of Vishnu. Some believe that there are actually some representation of Jesus or Virgin Mary. It's under debate, but when you see the actual, I didn't put the picture because I don't want to launch the debate, but what is true is that it was a very intercultural hub. And in the library, for example, we find books in Chinese, in Sogdian, in Persian, different languages. So it's a symbol really of, let's say, an ideal international harmony as well. And this is actually why you have those beautiful representations, because all over the centuries, people came from different sides of the world. You can imagine that there was a lot of conflict. So this Buddhist iconography was also here to pacify. So what is amazing is that it's still meaningful for today, and as we'll see, for the heritage strategy, heritage diplomacy of China today. And one key example is this. Wang Wenlu's, it's probably him who discovered the Dunhuang Library. It's him who was a little bit manipulated by explorer. He sold some of the items. Sometimes it was also stolen. But you can see the transition now. 2019, Xi Jinping present in this site. And speaking about Chinese diplomacy, I also want to highlight the fact it has been always very creative. Starting with the ping-pong diplomacy. Doing this presentation, the preparation, I just checked. I wanted to know where it's from, ping pong. It sounds Chinese, but it's actually British. But then it has been used by Mao Zedong, all those sport consent to develop, let's say, international relations. And then the panda diplomacy. You know that China is given panda and take them back if they are not happy. It's really then it's understandable to have this particular set. And also gastro-diplomacy is the food, but Thailand is actually a prominent country developing gastro-diplomacy, using Thai food to boost the soft power. But I find this, of course, image with Nixon a little bit, yes. But it's more like, peripheric reference. But going back to our topic, I mentioned those three main inscriptions to the UNESCO World Heritage List, 1987. So same time, Great Wall, Bing Mayong, Terracotta Army. You understand that when you bring leaders there, the Great Wall is actually protecting the country from the invaders. So symbolically, it's very strong, but it might not be the best diplomatic symbol. As for Bimayong, you know that it's Tingshe Huangdi, a very ruthless leader. And this terracotta army has been destroyed by, there was actually a rebellion. So it's also a symbol somehow of the greatness of the empire. The first time that China is one empire, but also ruthless rule. But when you think of Dunhuang, of course, and here especially with the Pure Land, it's very, very different narrative. So I do think that I call it the yin and the yang of China's heritage diplomacy, but I do think it's very, very important. And here you see a destroyed terracotta soldier. So that's my point. It's less warless and much more, let's say, in a greater match with some diplomatic states. Now, moving on, part of this, of course, heritage diplomacy, a key concept of Xi Jinping's mandate is Ida Ilu, the Belt and Road Initiative. And obviously, Dunhuang is right on the road. So it's a very, very important element of the whole agenda. So this is why you also see initiative, and that's why Xi Jinping was present. But anticipating about my conclusion, you can see that this Belt and Road Initiative, so here continental road, here maritime road, it doesn't go through India. It's actually somehow to isolate India. And it sounds a little bit tricky when you, let me jump, when you know the history of cave murals. It's Buddhism comes from India, this art of mural also, so that could be actually very interesting to insert this particular dialogue, but it's not really there. And beside that, yes, so in this apparatus of this Belt and Road Initiative, you also have new museums, such as here, the Silk Road Museum. It's lost between the Rémy corridor. I haven't been able to visit it, but that's part of the extension of those Belt and Road. And you know that this initiative is also about connecting with Central Asia, especially the former let's say, part of the USSR. Those countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan are very, very strategic. And actually, culturally, it's part of this dialogue that China is developing. And so some of you will recognize this man, the former French Prime Minister. Dunhuang is also now actually a city for international meeting. Here, Jean-Pierre Raffarin, the former Prime Minister of France. So you have all the elements in place. And what I also find interesting, China is also using Ningxia, so that's another province, but known for the very high number of Huizu, Muslim Chinese, and this place in Yichuan, it's often actually used for symposium with Arab countries. So very interesting parallel here. So what we can then conclude for this particular heritage element is it's definitely a cornerstone of the Belt and Road Initiative, but also the diplomacy, with the exception of India. I just find interesting the fact that the interest from Indian artists is very strong. For example, you have this Indian artist, Nalima Sheikh. She has often travel to Dunhuang and cultivate actually an artistic dialogue with Dunhuang. So it's also very present in contemporary era. So this, yes, possible conclusion. A strategic cultural containment, up to you. But I use, of course, containment on purpose. It's a reference to the Cold War, but here it's cultural mostly. Now, last part, I hope you're not tired, 10 more minutes, but that's the most critical one, I would say, commodification of cultural heritage, because it's not stopping there at the institutional and diplomatic side. Now, Dunhuang is such a rich and engaging part of Chinese civilization. It's very easy to draw the attention, including the young population, the young generation. And in the agenda of China, it's also about boosting the domestic market. You know, and especially now with the pandemic, very important to support national creative industry, social media, and so on. So Dunhuang is perfect for that. And I'm going to also speak about makeup, as you can see, because it's part of the whole project. So it's heavily relying on new media, new technology, and so on. Here, for example, you have this VR immersive exhibition. If you're interested, this QR code will lead you to the video, the presentation. But you will see that it looks like a blockbuster. It's the new thing. So lots of investment. And there is also at stake this concept of multiplier effect, which means that in economics, when you invest a lot of money, like public money, you may not have a direct return on investment, but it's going to have a ripple effect for the overall economy. And that's what you notice here. Look at the GDP of Dunhuang. It's also growing, but partly with tourism, of course, but now not only creative industry, and we'll scroll down to see some of them. Starting with social media. So you might be familiar at some point with TikTok. It's a Chinese app. In Chinese, we call it Douyin, and it's very, very popular. And you have actually an official account of Dunhuang Academy, and it's actually the most followed social media account for Dunhuang. So very, very important. And they are sharing a lot of content, a lot of collaboration, and including, you see Berry, she's actually one of the guides of Dunhuang Cave. And she's very talented with social media as well. She's not only very knowledgeable, and despite, let's say, the cliche we have towards social media, it's very much educational content for most of the time. So a very interesting balance. You will, I will let you discover on TikTok or Douyin if you're interested. And you also have collaboration with, so Tmall is Alibaba, the e-commerce website, Huawei, one of the leading smartphone company, and also this collaboration. So going back to Thailand, think of TrueMove, Ayutthaya, and Lazada all together. That's basically but it's also backed up by the authority. It's also, facilitated by the fact that it's extremely hierarchical in China. So if there is a will on top, this will happen with any private partner. So that's part of it. So now, virtual reality I mentioned, video game as well. It's very much, but we're probably quite far from the Dai-chien and the murals. More educational documentary, and very good documentary, Dunhuang, and also very, very popular on Chinese television. And then a set also of exhibition, traveling exhibition, so that's very, very important. So traveling on social media, but also in different museums. And some actually have traveled to Western countries as well. It's not only within China. So it's still also relevant with this heritage diplomacy. This is, for example, one example of a Shanghai Powerlong Museum, a private museum in Shanghai, but hosting elements of Dunhuang. And here, also a little bit like the Siam Society, organizing concerts, but about this also musical ancient heritage. So music, performing arts. Here you have this theater that is in Dunhuang, but having a lot of performance and using actually these particular references. Fashion as well, it's part of this development, and more, let's say, Gen Z oriented cosplay. And I find it very interesting. Cosplay is when you dress up like, animated characters and so on. What is very interesting, it's a Japanese phenomenon, but now it's actually moved to China with Chinese characteristics, and Dunhuang actually elements. So that's a very, very strong evolution. As for e-commerce, so here, Tianmao, not Lazada, Taobao, sorry, but by the way, Lazada belongs to Taobao, huh? So it's, yes, it's connected. And then other, let's say, more anecdotal elements, the ice cream. by the way, wherever you go, if you go to Beijing, you're going to have the ice cream that has exactly the shape. It's a big, big hit in China. And this, I find it quite fun. Why not? Then graphic design. Also here, this is a picture I took of a vending machine. Everything is about Dai-chien. And so this word doesn't exist yet, but I think we can create it to Dunhuang guys or to Dunhuang Hua, maybe, in Chinese. Then, last example, and I think is also symbolically very, very interesting. Some of you might be familiar with MAC, a makeup brand. Where is MAC from? It's an American brand. So I think it's very interesting to see, especially knowing the current relationship of the two countries, American makeup brand having a capsule collection with Dunhuang. It's makeup using the color of those caves. So in the end, that's, let's say, the point I want to bring today. Timeless UNESCO World Heritage, but becoming an integrated and strategic plan for the Chinese authority to stimulate creative industry, digital economy, and also support the domestic market. So that's, let's say, referring to the fourfold plan. Maybe still some pending question, because I'm always surprised, actually, to when I'm in China, I try to stick to my mind. This is a communist country, but you could see with the commodification of heritage, it's very, very capitalistic. So there is this ambiguity that is very, very interesting to dig into. If you are more familiar with the, let's say, Chinese mindset, yin and yang, and the complementarity of opposites, so probably a Western mind is not appropriate to understand this particular evolution. But then up to you to wonder if it's a beneficent democratization of culture, if it's somehow state capitalism with Chinese characteristics. So I almost paraphrase Deng Xiaoping's famous statement. Instrumentalization of heritage management, backed up by nationalist narrative. That might be the new agenda. And then integrated heritage communication. For those who are familiar with marketing, there is this concept of integrated marketing communication. And it's actually to sophisticate and find synergies within a marketing and communication strategy. So here I find that somehow, and so don't quote me on that, but that's, I guess, we're trying to make it meaningful. There is a strong integration, and despite, obviously, the struggle that China has to boost its soft power, at least from the Dunhuang's perspective, it's optimized. So I will finish here and welcome all your questions, if any. I'm on time. Good. If you're too shy for a question, actually I have a bonus. I've prepared a bonus. Just to, yeah, okay. Because it's about this, actually, articulation of the opposite side. I had the chance to visit the Mao Zedong Museum. I don't know if some of you have visited it in the hometown of Mao Zedong in Shaoshan, near Changsha. And to my surprise, so that's what we discover, the socks of Mao Zedong, the shoes of Mao Zedong, the bathing suit of Mao Zedong, and the famous one he was wearing when he was swimming in the Yangtze River. And about this commodification trend, what do we see in the museum shop? Mao Zedong slippers for sale. And if we move a little bit further online, we see Mao Zedong bathing suit. So unfortunately, it's discontinued, but that's actually also another angle about this commodification, and this always a big surprise we have. And for the sinologists in the room, you will probably also know this famous book by Simon Less, Pierre Rickmans, Les habits neufs du président Mao, so the new clothes of Mao Zedong, but I find very interesting to see that in the actual museum, it's the old clothes of Mao Zedong. And there is also a very interesting dialogue with contemporary art scene. Above, this is Mao Zedong Museum. Below, modern art installation, Jeff Boyce and Tracy Emin. And I do think that in the curating, you see the pillow of Mao Zedong that looks exactly like this thing. And later on, I was really surprised to see that actually Joseph Beuys himself, this German artist, has been represented with Mao Zedong sitting on his famous chair. And I cannot resist to share the last slide. So this is the famous chair where he's sitting when he was receiving the leaders, yes, in Zhongnai High. And you have a 3D digitalization. So very similar to what I explained with Dunhuang. A 3D digitalization, but not stainless, okay? And then I asked the question, can we go that into detail? And actually the guide in Chinese, I did the tour twice, because I thought I didn't understand. They are talking about the problem of Mao Zedong, the one you can guess. And then I was thinking of Charles de Gaulle or Chiang Kai-shek. But that's the whole, I think, surprise and the pleasure I have when I go back to China. Always surprised. So that's the bonus. But question, I welcome. I will still have 5 minutes or more. I don't know.
Thank you so much for your speaking. You gave me a very special perspective. I never think people can think these things as this perspective. And I'm so thankful for you. Give me new idea. Because before, I read some Dunhuang documentary. I watched some documentary. It's so different with you. Because you are so fresh. You give me some modern things and people's mind. So, I want to thank you. Thank you so much.
谢谢你。Question over there.
Thank you for your presentation. Very interesting. Since you mentioned that among all the UNESCO heritage sites in China, Dunhuang is probably the least militant. I mean, comparing to the Great Wall and the Terracotta Army. So I'm wondering if there's any effort on the part of the Chinese government, to promote Dunhuang as the city of peace. As you know, obviously it is the center of exchange, diplomacy, trade, and whatnot, connecting Europe and Asia. So yeah, I would love to learn more about that if you have any information. Thank you.
But yes, you're very right. It's actually like as an opposition to the Great Wall being Mayong. This is a very important symbol of peace, okay? And that's actually also the window that China wants to present to the world. The only ambiguity is that, of course, you see like Pure Land representation, it's extremely serene, it's elevating the soul and so on. But as I also mentioned, this was painted that way to pacify, because we know from historical record, it was actually, imagine people from all over the world gathering in the middle of the desert. If you don't have water, enough food, I mean, it could go badly very, very quickly. So, yeah, you're completely right. This is something, but of course, they will cherry pick. It's very often in the diplomacy, but also in the national policy, depending on the agenda, a little bit more of Dunhuang, or if there are more tension, then there will be more Mayong. It really depends. It's not like set in the marble, for sure. It really And that's the same with censorship. There is, it's very difficult to think that, oh, this will be censored or not. It really depends. At the moment, a lot of sensitive content will be very likely censored.
I have a question. If we go back to Dunhuang next year, how many caves are still open for visitors?
So if you are a tourist, it's between 10 and 15. If you're a scholar, you have access to more. Yeah. And I have my entry, so I may have a bonus as well. But it's also explained, as I mentioned, the vulnerability. But it's about, and actually now it's, because I'm often connecting with them, the team, they haven't recovered from the pandemic. It used to be, let's say, overcrowded, but not anymore. So, and especially in the winter, if you cope with cold weather, winter time, it's also like super blue. It's nice weather. It's super dry, super cold, but nice. Yeah. But I know that Thai travelers love cold weather. That's why you travel to Iceland. So then go to Dunhuang. It's closer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is it difficult to, I would say not anymore, because now you have actually a train from Lanzhou to, and you have an airport. So you see here, what we usually from Bangkok, we often switch in Xi'an or in Chengdu. But you also have what I did the last time I arrived, actually across the whole China. I arrived in Lanzhou and I took the train. The train all over the Heshi corridor, stopping in Diayuguan and Zhongye. And that's actually something, if you have time, that's also something. Because you see the last part of the Great Wall, that is actually very destroyed, but you see, some part have been rebuilt in Diayuguan, I think, yeah. Diayuguan, yeah. And yeah, so not anymore. Not anymore, and then if it's off-season, it's also not crowded at the moment, but it may change over the coming months.
It's a high-speed train.
And high-speed train. I mean, yeah, if you're, I mean, China high-speed train, that's why actually this trip, I studied in Shanghai, and I went back to Mao Zedong Museum, Chengdu, Leshan, Lanzhou, and then Dunhuang, and back to Bangkok.
Well, thank you so much. You know, I've been to Dunhuang many times, but this is something quite revealing, very new to me, and can't wait to go back. You're going to see Dunhuang everywhere in everything. It's very exciting.
Don't forget the makeup. But it might be not on sale anymore.
Can you buy that in the States or just in Dunhuang?
It was available in China for sure. Yeah, so, but I haven't gone any further in my scientific research, unfortunately.
If you go there before,
I had enough information.
If you go there before I do, can you?
Sure. I take the orders, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very happy.
Thank you so much, and thank you.